So today we'll start a joints topic, which is going to be a detailed video. We'll cover out everything. So let's start. What does this joints word means? Joint simply means meeting point. Meeting point between two bones is called as a joint. So we have different types as well. I hope joint is simply when two things are combined. If we just take example of if this the bone, basically bones are not like that, but we just consider, and here, so these are the bones and they're attached. This attachment, this is basically called, here this is in the middle we have a joint, that's why they are able to connect with each other, right? So I hope it will be clear. Then we have several divisions. Let's check it out. Joints are of three types: 1, 2 and 3, right? So let's start first one, called as fibrous joint. Second one called as a cartilaginous. And the third one basically called as synovial joint. These three joints we'll cover in detail. Okay, so these three joints we'll discuss. First one, fibrous. Even the word fibrous says this would be made up of fibers. So they are made up of fibrous tissue. Even these are basically called as a dense fiber. Dense fiber, which are simply connective tissues. And what you'll see, we have so many things here. Basically no movement occur. Now when we talk about the example, that's called as a suture. The example is suture. Now what does this mean? This is simply a joint between cranial bones, joint between cranial nerves, not nerves but the bones, that's called as a suture. These are the, like, even if I just make out the structure, what you'll see, here is one piece of a bone, and here we have, in the middle we have kind of tissues. These are called as a connective tissue made up of fibers. This is simply a dense fiber like structure which is made up of connective tissue. This was about the fibers, right? But this was all on the basis of their appearance and on the basis of the working, like they have no movement, here they have slightly movement, and here synovial have complete, like fully movement. But on the movement we have different, we call them something else. What does we call them? So I need to raise this a little. Okay, so here what we'll see, we also called the fibrous joint as a synovius. This name is given to the fibers on the basis of their movement. On the basis of movement, and this have a no movement, so synothosis. And the second, cartilaginous, which is also called as amphitheresis. Amphitheresis, which is simply given name on the movement, and they are simply having slightly movement. Then what you will see, we'll see cartilage joint which have a slightly movement. And if I just make a structure, this is going to be the structure. These are the two bones in the middle. Here we have a structure that's basically called as a, that's a structure called as a white fibrocartilage. And what we'll see, they are quite strongly made, they have a slightly movement. And when we talk about the example, so the joint between vertebrates is made up of cartilaginous joint. So when we talk about the example here, the example could be pelvic region. In the pelvic we have other things. So the joint between vertebrates is simply made up of cartilaginous. Then so here let's check it out. Synovial joint, which is simply on the basis of their movement, we call them as a diathesis. Orthosis, This simply means they have a fully movement. Fully movement. So when we talk about the example, the picture, so let's make it out. This is going to be the structure. If this is the structure, these are here we will see kind of fluid. So here this kind of a structure is basically called as what? Okay, so here this is the structure. This is structure called as a synovial. This called as a articular cartilage. Articular cartilage here. Then we have a fluid which is filled inside this cavity. The fluid inside this called as a synovial fluid. And of course fluid provide lubrication, so same function goes here. Then what we'll see one more thing here. Another structure is present. This basically called as a synovial membrane. Synovial membrane, and these all things outside structure, this basically called as a ligament. So these all are the structure. Even the cartilage are of different types. So if I just tell you, we have not covered any video for cartilage, so I'm just going to introduce them here. Cartilage are of three types. First one called as a hyaline. Hyaline cartilage, which is simply present between ribs and sternum. Between ribs and sternum. So what this means, our nose and the bone surface, these all things are in hyaline. The second one, that's called as a fibrocartilage. Fibrocartilage, which is simply hardest than all, which is present in knee and elbow, knee and the pectoral as well. Then the last one basically called as elastic cartilage. Even elastic tells it would be called soft. So yes, elastic cartilage, which is kind of soft like structure, which can be stretched, quite flexible. And the example of this one could be the ear pinna. We have covered cartilage in a separate video, but this is going to be kind of one shot, not one shot, but everything about the joints, cartilage, this thing. That's why I'm discussing. So here, this why I told you right now, because this articular cartilage is the example of hyaline cartilage. That's why I told you. Then this synovial joint is again divided into three more parts. Now let's check it out. What are these? So synovial. Synovial joint divided into three more parts. Let's check it out. First one called as the gliding joint. Gliding joint, which is simply made up of which is simply present between the second and seventh rib with the sternum. Then we will see they have the examples here, which are simply called as intercarpals, which are present in our hands and feet, and intertarsals. These both points. Then I hope it will be clear. Then second one basically called as a ball and socket. What we will see here in this one, ball and socket simply means they are mostly free but cannot move entirely. The example could be shoulder joint. We simply say it like they are 270 or like a structure, because of course we can move our bone. If this the shoulder bone, it can go over here and the back. This means almost 360. Shoulder joint could be the example, and we also have another, which is the cavity and humerus joint. Then comes the last one. So last one basically called as a hinge joint. Hinge joint, which is simply elbow joint. Elbow joint, interphalangeal joint. Interphalangeal joint and knee joint. Knee joint, these all are the examples. So yes, here comes the end of our entire joints. We'll cover out from the book, but it will get a little more longer then. So I hope this detailed video of joint everything would be very much clear. So I'll come with the next video for reading out from the book, as that's also very much important. So bye bye.